Greetings once again. It's a pleasure to be back and it's a pleasure to start this conversation again. I took a break because of the conference and some other engagement, but now I'm back. So, as I'm starting off again in this particular series of episodes, one of the key things for the session that I'm going to cover today is where do you start your career, especially either it's before you do your internship, after your internship, or just when you're in between and you're not so sure where you're going to make that journey work. Most likely within before you start your internship or doing your board exams and after your internship, because now that is a point that you need to make a decision and see where the trajectory your career goes into, and that's going to be the focus of these. After that, following the PSK conference that we had in May, towards the end of it, I'm going to do a series of other videos that I'll be sharing, majorly focusing on some of the emerging themes and trends from the conference, but also on what opportunities and what possibilities are out there in the pharmacy sector for us as pharmacists and also as young people, young healthcare professionals in the space. And that's going to be an interesting series of conversations as we're going into it, because I'll be looking at different domains, different specific areas, and also some of the emerging trends and the emerging conversation that we captured. This would be a benefit to those who did not manage to attend the conference, but also to those who attended, but also might have a different perspective and a different outlook to it. And I think this conversation would be beneficial for us as we shape the future. So back to the content of the discussion today. Where do you start your career? It's a difficult question to answer, and it's also more challenging in the sense that we are in a space where employment opportunities are very limited and very scarce, and therefore you are looking for somewhere where you can get grounded and start your career and be able to make a living. On the other end, you're asking yourself, what are the prospects, what are the possibilities for you, rather than just today being in a space in the next 2-3 years, next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or thereabout. How do you craft that path? And it is an interesting conversation to have. So I was asked this question by a colleague who is just done with her education and is yet to do her stage 1 board exams, pharmacy. But then the same thing is, last weekend when we had a conversation with some of my colleagues as well, during the Culture Youth Voices Network conversation, then this was an emerging trend, and it was an emerging trend and emerging discussion point with the different people that I was talking to. There was some perspective that were also shared, and I think that is going to be a very important bit as well as we move into the conversation. So where do you start? The first question you need to ask yourself is, if I'm looking at myself as David, in the next 5-10 years, where would I want to be? Knowing where I would want to be should be a key driver in terms of helping me make a decision to get to that line. And when I'm asking where you want to be, it's not based on a physical space, but in terms of what kind of work would you want to do. Would you want to be a CEO? Would you want to be a director in a company somewhere? Would you want to be a clinical pharmacist working in a clinical setting treating patients? Or would you want to be a roving consultant doing a lot of consultancy work? What kind of skill sets match each and every of those buckets, and how do you acquire those skills? Because that is a critical bit that you need to ask yourself. And one of the key bits that I noted as well in the conversation that we had on Friday was, somebody mentioned it clearly, I would want to get into the corporate world and making business decisions at a higher level. Then it means if you are going to do that and you're going to get into that space, you already need to ask yourself, what spaces will help you gain the skills to be in the business world, making strategic decisions at the high level, whether an employee or as a founder of your business. And that is a challenge, because some of the points that were being raised and actually discussed were, I have an opportunity to do locum in a pharmacy, I have an opportunity to start at a community pharmacy level, and I'm hoping that can set me up for what I would want to achieve. Then the question is, what do you want to achieve? I want to work in a corporate world, making decisions, strategic ones, operational stuff. Or do you want to be at the counter selling and dispensing medicines? I'm not saying the pharmacy dispensing medications are different. You can be at the dispensing level, but you have the autonomy and the power to actually shape the kind of practice that is happening in that pharmacy. That is a different ballgame. Or you could start off in regulatory affairs, growing your career in a company that has structures and organizational frameworks that you are learning from, and therefore if you leave that place, you can go to the community pharmacy as a businessman, but with a clear guidance on what frameworks look like in terms of typical management, typical corporate organization. Those are things that you need to ask yourself. And then the other bit is, if you're interested in clinical pharmacy practice, there's no need for you to look into the corporate world and lose out on that opportunity. And bits of this conversation is, when you're starting off, ask yourself what you want to achieve, where you want to be 5, 3, 10 years from now. After that, Explore the possibilities that are around for you. The possibilities that are around would be based on what avenues do you have. Are they full-time jobs? Are they part-time jobs? Or are they volunteering or fellowship opportunities? Do they give you the skills and give you the opportunity to learn what you need to learn? If they give you the opportunity to learn and all of them have or meet all those criteria, then take a full-time employment opportunity. If the full-time employment opportunity does not give you the skills and the experience that you need to get into your vision, then look at what are the fellowships opportunities or even the part-time jobs that you can have that will give you that opportunity. If those do not exist, go to the volunteering options. And in the volunteering option, tell yourself that the reward is not in the pay that you get at the end of the month. It would mean stipends. It would be just basic survival or maybe even allowances that you're getting out of that job. But then it means your pay and your remuneration would be linked to the value you're able to derive from that opportunity. And that value is linked on the skills you are going to gain. You will never gain any skill unless you put in the work. So you need to be willing and ready to put in the work, to be ready to learn, to be ready to shape perspectives and conversations on where you want to take your career and how you want that career for you to grow. Because if you don't do the work, you're in an organization, at the end of the day, you will show the name of the organization when you're applying for the other jobs that you're hoping for. But the name of the organization is good. But if you cannot explain what achievements you've made in that organization for the period of time where you've been with them, whether as a volunteer, as a fellow, as an apprentice, or as a part-time employee or a full-time employee, there's no value that you get. And reminds me of a conversation that I had with one of my friends as well on Tuesday last week. And in that conversation, some of the questions we just asked around was, you've been with this organization for the last 2 years now. How has it made a difference in your life? If you were to leave the organization and be out there in the world, what would you say you carry with yourself? Because all the work that you've done for the organization stays with the organization. That is proprietary information by the organization and for the organization. You've been serving them. So what extra do you have for yourself that you'd say, I've made these accomplishments? It is critical. And this is a case where you're working with an organization that has the opportunity to publish papers, doing a lot of research. Are you a contributor in those research work, in that publication that is being published? Because whether you're working with an organization and a paper is published and you are the publishing author, that right never leaves you, whether it was for the organization or for yourself. And those are the key things that you need to ask yourself. What are the additional value that you're getting from that employment, and how do you make those decisions? And most importantly, put yourself out there and get the job. The final remark that I would share in this video, because I'm going to make it as short as it can be, the key point that one of these colleagues of mine last weekend mentioned on Friday was, you see, at this particular moment we are out of school, either before or after internship, we are still young, we have the advantage of time. And the advantage of time makes you be able to make decisions that would not give you the ultimate optimal gratification that you're hoping for in terms of maybe pay package that you're hoping for or whichever it is. But then it gives you the advantage that you can craft your journey with limited responsibility, limited obligations, and do the much you can to set yourself for the next phase of success. You've not started a family, or if you've started a family, it's still a very young family. The obligations or commitments are not as dire as if you had maybe, let's say for example, 2-3 kids who are still going to school and you have to be able to provide for them. The dynamics are different. So it means within this time frame, and I would relate it to Jack Ma's narration of stories, in your 20s and your early 30s, you have the latitude to take risks, to learn, to expose yourself, to gain the skills. Look for a career that gives you the skills that you hope for, that exposes you to the people who will help you shape your career. I remember last conference there was an advice that we need career sponsors. Which platforms can you access that would give you access to the sponsors who will speak your name in rooms where you're not? And how do you get them? Once you've gotten them, how do you do with that opportunity? What do you do with that opportunity? Do you apply yourself, or do you sit back and wait for them to do the job? They will do as much as they can, but you have to carry your weight as well. So most importantly, when you're setting off and you're asking yourself where to start your career, what is your ultimate aspiration? Where can you get the skills and the capabilities and the experience that you need to jump scale, actually to leapfrog your career? Then once you've gotten it, make a decision whether it's full-time, part-time, fellowship, or volunteering opportunities. Apply yourself to the job optimally, deliver value, and build something for yourself, whether in terms of additional publications whether in terms of additional content that you're creating in your own space, or just contribution and networking platform where you're building your social and professional capital through the network that you've established. At the end of the day, after you've acquired all that you need as you jump frog and leapfrog your career, know that one, you have to apply yourself now into looking at where you need to get there. Because if you're hoping to be a CEO and you've been volunteering in an operational level for a long period of time, unless you apply for those CEO roles, for those business development roles, you will never get the job. So once you believe you've acquired the skills, you're in a position to go out there and venture into the world, please ensure that you apply for those opportunities, go for them, have conversations with recruiting firms, recruitment organizations, go get the job. And I wish you all the best in that pursuit. And I hope you get the job that satisfies you, but also helps you shape the future practice for what you wish for and what the future generations can look up to. If you enjoy the conversation, please subscribe to the channel. Let's engage, let's build the following and the engagement as much as we can. But also share the content with people within your networks that you believe can find value out of these. If you're able to do that, it would be a great addition to the profession and to the future careers of us as young professionals. Thank you so much, and let's engage again next Sunday as I share more content, and this would be mostly specifically on learnings and insights from the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya 43rd Annual Scientific Conference. I hope you enjoy them and I hope you learn as we build a better career together. Thank you and have a good one.